listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Welcome to High Tech with Corey K, X-Zone Nation. Feel free to email me any and all questions at coreyk@pctechfl.com. This is High Tech with Corey K, where we discuss the latest and greatest in Windows, Mac, Linux, smartphone, mobile, you name it. If it's techie, we cover it all. You can also send me a Skype message at High Tech with CK. That's HITECH with C as in Charlie, K as in Kilo. That's High Tech with CK. Or you can join the tech support forums at www.xzonetechzone.com. Today we're going to cover recovery disks and Windows, what they are, what they can do, and what they can't do. Along with that, we will discuss the differences between retail Windows operating systems versus OEM Windows versions from the likes of HP, Dell, and Lenovo, companies like that. We will gripe about the disappearance of product key stickers and physical disks from retail computers. We will cover the best in tech news, and in our power user segment, we're going to be covering different types of modern disk drives that are out there now, including the woes of setting up RAID systems with NVMe solid-state drives. So if you're a power user, stick around for that. If you post any questions during today's show, we will address those questions during the next week's pre-recorded broadcast. The place to ask those questions is coreyk@pctechfl.com, xzonetechzone.com, or go ahead and Skype me at High Tech, that's HITECH with CK. But first we want to cover an interesting news item. Many of us who are around for the dawn of the web received interesting content like flash games and the classic Slap a Spice Girl Silly that were powered by something mysterious called Flash in Java. Flash and Java proved to be so useful that a generation of computer users grew up needing to install Flash and Java on new computers as a matter of course. Because everyone was installing this software on Windows computers, Macs, Linux boxes, all over the place, Flash and Java became popular targets of hackers who could attack targets using any type of computer imaginable. The more targets that the attacker can reach, the more popular that software platform becomes that they target. As you've probably noticed over the last year or more and more browsers have started blocking and disallowing Java and or Flash plugins. Many devices don't allow them at all. Flash hasn't been allowed on many mobile devices for a long time now. This week, though, Google announced that they'll be retiring Flash in the Google Chrome web browser as of December, and that will be in favor of the newer HTML5 standard. The HTML5 standard is simpler. You have little video tags, and you don't necessarily have to rely on that third-party Adobe script anymore. Some websites will barely be affected by this change, as they have already started to develop using HTML5 instead. That can be a hard one to say. Other popular gaming sites have such an online presence, however, that users will likely stick with Flash and Java software unless it is fully replaced somewhere else. There's some Java that you can't even get rid of. Android itself, in a way, is a very specialized type of Java library, although I don't think Google would want you to know that in a court of law. They go up against Oracle now and again over that issue, but other popular gaming sites have such an online presence that users will likely stick with the software unless it is fully replaced somewhere else or by something else. You can also believe that hackers will soon be targeting HTML5 more and more. So for you fans of FlashGames247.com and Pogo.com, you may have to find the new Flash-friendly browsers that will doubtless emerge as this change accelerates, or you can just invest in a smartphone and join the world of gaming through apps like the rest of us. Personal decision. Adobe has been announcing the death of Flash for over 5 years now, but where there is a will, there is a way. Join us on the other side of this break. This is your host, Corey K., and you have been listening to High Tech with Corey K. Email me any technical questions at coreyk@pctechfl.com. Visit and join the forums at xzonetechzone.com or Skype me at High Tech with CK. That's HITECH with CK. We'll be back in a minute, X-Zone Nation. Before we cut to the break, we want to do a brief public service announcement. Please do not play Pokemon Go while driving or walking in front of trains or walking near cliffs or walking near landmines. Please be safe and aware. Pokemon Go has a new feature that will not let you drive and use the app at the same time, which was a good move on Niantic's part. Please be aware of your surroundings. Be safe when using Pokemon Go. We'll be back on the other side of this break, X-Zone Nation. Stay tuned.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold. You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Linnea Starr began to demonstrate a metaphysical connection to the spirit world as a little girl. Her family noticed the connection, but it was a great-grandmother who told the family that Linnea was indeed gifted. The great-grandmother, who was also gifted, felt that Linnea had indeed inherited these attributes. It has been noticed that oftentimes such things are passed down through the generations. Linnea was also born with a caul, a thin white membrane across a newborn's face. Legend has it that if the baby is born with this caul, the child will have second sight, or what we call psychic abilities. Linnea Starr does past, present, and future, and has the gift of prophecy. It is written within scriptures that if you are able to give factual information and prophecies indeed come true, the gift indeed comes from the divine realm. Linnea Starr does large interactive groups as well as private gatherings. For more information on Linnea Starr or to contact Linnea for a one-on-one consultation, visit her website at www.linneastar.com. That's www.linneastar.com.
Welcome back to High Tech with Corey K, where we have just been announcing yet another Death of Flash announcement. I'm not talking about Barry Allen. Feel free to email me any and all questions at coreyk@pctechfl.com or send me a Skype message at hightech with CK. That's HITECH with CK. Or you can join the tech support forums at www.xzonetechzone.com. In this segment, we're going to delve into the world of disk drives. There was a time in the past where we had to concern ourselves with floppy disks, the really floppy kind, and the harder kind with film in the middle, versus true hard disks, the disks we have grown most accustomed to. Today, we have a whole different set of choices. While there are many, many hard disk drives out there, and will be for some time to come, we now have seen the emergence of cheaper, faster, solid-state disks. Many of these are not even disks at all in the traditional sense, but add-on cards for your desktop, laptop, tablet, ultrabook, and mobile devices. And not everyone knows this, but most of what we think of as our computer, the web browsers, the games, the Word and Excel documents, and other programs and files that we use, actually reside on the hard disk drive or increasingly solid state drives inside of our computer case. This is our data that we want to protect, and when we speak of a computer crashing, we are often talking about a problem accessing that data or those programs on our various disk drives. With the rise of online video downloading, we have seen a need for greater and greater storage spaces for our multi-season collections of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and other timeless classics. We now laugh at 1 terabyte drives and can go out and purchase 2 terabyte, 3 terabyte, 4 terabyte, and more drives. Not all drives are even inside of our computer. We can back up our data to external hard drives, thumb drives, and these grow cheaper and cheaper by the day. What types of drives should we look for when we go out to buy a new computer or just look to acquire additional storage space? For now, 1 to 2 terabyte drives are going to be enough for what most users need. There's no pressing need to splurge on that 3 or 4 or 5 terabyte drive unless you have very special requirements, like if you need the fastest access possible to very large amounts of video or audio, if you're a media company. But rather than spend the extra money buying a 4 terabyte internal drive, think about what you really need to store and access frequently on your computer. Then go out and purchase a large external backup drive to offload some of those videos you don't watch anymore, those tax returns from 7 years ago that you need a copy of but don't look at but once a year, and older photos that you still want to keep but don't necessarily look at every day. Now, if you have a smart TV or media player, you can invest in a large thumb drive that will allow you to transfer multiple video and audio files to your media device of choice, your Roku boxes, your Apple TVs, your Kodi boxes, all of that. Now, external drives are also an excellent place to store a backup of your computer. It is vital that you back up your operating system and some base programs for usage later in case of that catastrophic lightning strike, a flood, or the dreaded disk drive failure. Full backups require a lot of space, and the existing hard drive is the last place you want to store your backup. The most current operating systems like Windows 10 don't even allow you to back up the existing primary disk anymore. Now, in the past, when storage was much more expensive, people would nearly always wait until it was too late to back up their data. Then catastrophe struck and all of that work was gone. Fortunately for us, we have a new option in cloud storage. With cloud storage from Barracuda, OneDrive, Google Drive, Amazon Cloud, and others, we don't even need external drives to do our backups anymore. OneDrive, for instance, integrates almost seamlessly with Windows-based computers now and provides automatic backups of many files if, and this is an important point, if you have your OneDrive turned on and you store those files to the OneDrive instead of to your local disk. So be very careful when saving your files. By default, most Windows computers still store video, music, and documents to libraries on your physical disk rather to cloud storage like OneDrive. So whenever you're saving a file, pay special attention to where the computer is saving it to. You don't want to accidentally lose your data. Always check to make sure you're saving your files to a OneDrive or Dropbox folder or other cloud storage option rather than to your physical hard drive. Make sure your network is functioning and enabled. If you have cloud storage but your network is down, that backup isn't happening. So be aware of that, and be prepared for long wait times to upload several gigabytes of content, days in many cases. If you're setting up a new computer and you have gigabytes and gigabytes or even terabytes of data to back up to the cloud, it can take hours or days, depending on the network connection that you have. If you've purchased a very high speed plan from your internet service provider, you may have a better experience, but for a lot of us, those backups over network can take a lot of time, and that's what a cloud backup is. It's a backup over network to a network location. Now, for the paranoid like me, it's not such a bad idea to back up your data to the cloud and also do a backup of important data to an external drive. So that's always an option. You don't usually, although I suppose you could, you don't usually back up your Windows operating system, anything like that, to a network location, although Windows does absolutely have a built-in feature that would allow you to back up to a network location. So it is a remote possibility. Most of the time, though, you're going to use an external drive to perform those backups, and you can be smart, use that cloud and external drive combination. If you have data limits on the network connection that you're using, make sure not to exceed those limits. And for goodness sake, do not upload large files to your cloud storage when you have smartphone or mobile phone tethering enabled. You will run up against those data limits very fast, and you'll quickly see an increased bill. I even remember a time where mobile tethering was turned on. Windows Update was turned on. The feature that turns off the Windows updates when you use mobile tethering was turned off, and all of a sudden the user was flooded with a string of text messages from their cellular provider saying, hey, you just exceeded your limits. That's going to be an extra $20 per gigabyte. And with that many gigabytes in place, all of a sudden the cell phone bill went up about $150-$200. It was bad. To get back to disk drives for a moment, we now can choose between larger hard disk drives that have a spinning platter inside, solid state drives, and hybrid drives that include features from both hard disk drives and solid state drives. Hard disk drives are slower and cheaper per gigabyte or terabyte. A good reason not to get a 4 terabyte hard drive is that it will take longer for your computer to process all of that information, and your antivirus program will run slower since it has more to scan. If you pick a computer with multiple drives, you generally want your first drive to be your boot drive, and you want it to be the smallest of your 2 drives if the drives are not the same size. That will increase your performance. Save the second drive for long-term backups. Better yet, ditch that old platter hard disk drive and get a solid state drive. In the recent past, solid state drives had smaller metal cases, and they resembled hard disk drives on the outside. Now you will find that most desktop computers have expansion PCIe slots inside them. PCIe slots being slots on your computer's motherboard that hold expansion cards like video cards, sound cards, network cards, and TV tuner cards that add extra functionality to your computer. Do a little price comparison online when shopping for a new computer. Some OEMs like Dell, HP, and Lenovo can offer a nice break if you add expansion cards and extra drives at the time you purchase the computer. Other times, you will find that you can buy a cheaper, lower spec computer from an OEM and then get expansion cards and additional drives cheaper later on. This is generally not the case with software purchases. It is almost always better to buy Windows and Office at the time of the computer purchase rather than later on at retail prices. But there are definite exceptions. Some computers come preloaded by the OEM with something like Ubuntu, or some other flavor of Linux, you can get those flavors of Linux for free online. So you can buy a very bare bones computer with something like FreeDOS that just barely allows it to boot, and then you can get that free version of any Linux operating system that you choose and add it on later and save a little money that way. But for most of us that use Windows, you're better off buying Windows. It's often included in the price, in a sense, when you buy that new computer and buy your software when you first get that computer. Now, solid state drives come in many flavors. Laptops can contain smaller metal SSDs, usually 2.5 inches or smaller. There are MSATA and M2 SSD drives, which for laptops and ultrabooks especially are tiny, and PCIe solid state drives. You have tiny PCIe solid state drives for laptops, ultrabooks, tablets, and then you have some larger PCI expansion cards that will fit into your desktop. M2 and PCIe solid state drives can look similar, so make sure you install them in the right slot inside your laptop if you go that route. With desktops, installation is easier. You can just pop them into the PCIe slots, which are not your memory slots. It's where you would put your video card or other expansion cards. They line up with the outside of that case, so that's where you want to install them. You just pop them in the PCI slots, close the case, and you're ready to go. MSATA and M2 solid state drives can be used as fast boot devices. They are relatively more expensive than platter hard drives, but they're getting cheaper by the day. M2 SSD drives can use PCIe 3 lanes and speeds. They can also use USB 3 lanes. They can use many lanes inside the computer and achieve fast speeds. But they're starting to be supplemented or even replaced by PCIe NVMe solid state drives. Now, PCIe solid state drives can potentially be faster than PCI 3, although not a lot of them are right now. Until very recently, however, you could not make PCIe NVMe solid state drives that were also bootable. This is quickly changing, so take a quick look online to see if a smaller but faster solid state drive can give you the performance boost that you've been looking for. We're going to take another break. This is your host, Corey K, and you've been listening to High Tech with Corey K. Email me at coreyk@pctechfl.com or visit the forums at xzonetechzone.com. We'll be back.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge, breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/xzone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/xzone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at www.drgibbswilliams.com. Join High Tech with Corey K. weekly here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. From the world of computers to the ever-popular computerized gadgetry that are becoming part of our everyday life and living and society. From kids and their gaming devices, teens and their smartphones, to the applications of personal and business computers. From hardware to software, from standalone units to network computers. Join high-tech guru Corey K. weekly right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network as he takes on the topics that will be of use and great value to the international audience of the X Zone Broadcast Network. High Tech with Corey K. weekends at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Coming soon to the X Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randall, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who would like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net.
You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. What happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold.
Welcome back to High Tech with Corey K. Email your questions to coreyk@pctechfl.com or send me a Skype message at hightech with CK. That's HITECH with C as in Charlie, K as in Kilo. Or you can join the tech support forums at www.xzonetechzone.com. During the last segment, we were reviewing the different types of disk drives. Before going out and buying the latest and greatest NVMe SSD drive, however, make sure your computer is compatible with the new drive. Not all desktops and laptops can handle them, especially if you already have a lot of expansion cards on a new desktop. Also know that if you are using a newer computer with a Skylake processor, you may encounter a few issues along the way, so be prepared for a little bit of advanced setup. We may cover that in a future show. That being said, we're going to move on to Windows recovery disks versus Windows retail installation disks. When you buy a new computer from a major OEM like HP, Dell, or Lenovo, you are purchasing what is known as an OEM copy of Windows. OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer. The product key for this type of Windows is now embedded onto the motherboard of the computer as a DPK or digital product key. In the past, Microsoft allowed the OEMs to use nice little stickers on the case in case you misplace your product key. Unfortunately, that period is long gone now, and we must adjust to the new reality. In theory, an embedded digital product key would not be a problem. You don't have to manually enter a product key when you reinstall Windows. It has its advantages. In reality, this becomes a huge problem if you ever need to reinstall Windows on a new hard drive because your original went bad, or if you had to replace the motherboard on the PC itself. By default, purchases of Windows Online will not come with a CD or DVD anymore. If you pay attention to what you're doing, it is well worth your investment to elect to get a disk when you buy a new computer or a new version of Windows. It will make the process of reinstalling Windows go much more smoothly if you ever need to reinstall Windows later on. If you have already purchased a computer in the last 3 to 4 years and you did not get a disk, you can sometimes download a Windows disk image in the form of an ISO file, which is an image file that can store software such as a copy of Windows. To make this ISO file usable, you will need a DVD and a DVD burner, or a Blu-ray disc and a Blu-ray burner, or you will need to make a bootable thumb drive. A normal thumb drive is not bootable when you first buy it. It is designed by default for simple storage, but you can use tools like Rufus to make that hard drive bootable. And if you need instructions on how to do this, just email your questions to coreyk@pctechfl.com or send me a Skype message at hightech with CK, that's HITECH with CK, or you can join our growing tech support forums at www.xzonetechzone.com. Now, if you buy a copy of Windows directly from Microsoft, this is known as a retail copy of Windows. If you elect to buy a disk along with your purchase, you will have a full version of Windows that you can install on any hard drive or computer. It contains all the files you need to reinstall Windows. It's very easy if it comes to the point where you need to reinstall Windows. But if you get Windows at the time you purchase an OEM computer, however, that product key is tied to that particular hard drive and computer. The product key is injected onto the motherboard itself, and trying to use a different non-retail product key can become problematic if you ever need to reinstall. If you try to bring a hard drive from such a computer into a different computer, particularly from a different manufacturer, you will similarly encounter problems. The good news is that the OEMs have ways to get around this problem. If you have any problems, you can absolutely call them, or you can give us a shout out here at CoreyK@PCTechFL.com. When you first buy a new OEM computer, make sure to make a backup of that original version of Windows. On many home computers, there's already a backup image of Windows stored on what is known as a recovery partition on those computers. On Windows 10, you will not be allowed to make a backup on the main hard drive itself. Other versions of Windows, even though they didn't necessarily recommend it, did allow you to make a backup within the same main hard drive itself. Or on a separate partition of that hard drive. Not anymore. You'll need to make that backup to a second drive inside the computer, or an external drive of some kind, like an external hard drive like we discussed in the last segment, or a thumb drive. You can also burn a copy to disk, but it will take several disks in some cases, depending on what you do at the point that you make the backup or what you have loaded. You can also back up on one disk if you have a recordable Blu-ray disc and a Blu-ray burner. Now, many businesses wipe the recovery partition for one reason or another. If this happens, it is especially important to make a backup the first time you run your new computer. Most of the OEMs do have their own backup utility that you can use, so you're protected in case you forget to make that backup or you wipe that recovery drive. Now, if you buy a Windows disk from an OEM, this is known as a recovery disk instead of a retail Windows disk. If you have purchased a Windows 10 upgradable computer that is shipped with Windows 7 when it first arrives, that recovery disk is not going to be enough to load Windows 10 for the first time. Now that the free upgrade to Windows 10 period has expired, you will often need to contact Microsoft when upgrading to Windows 10 from the Windows update process if activation problems occur. You must run all Windows 7 updates and then upgrade to Windows 10, or use the Windows User Migration Tool online to get to Windows 10 from 7 now that the free period's expired. You just can't use an OEM recovery disk to upgrade to Windows 10 unless you have already upgraded that same computer to Windows 10 in full at some point in the past. Now, we discussed on our previous show the difference between legacy BIOS and UEFI BIOS, and remember that BIOS is that basic input-output operating system that allows your motherboard to communicate with all the hardware devices on the computer. When you upgrade from Windows 7 to 10 on many computers, you will automatically be switched from this legacy BIOS to UEFI BIOS. UEFI BIOS is the new BIOS that supports drives larger than 2.1 terabytes and it includes secure boot, which among other things. and UEFI BIOS is available and necessary for Windows 8 and higher. If you really find yourself in a jam when repairing a broken Windows installation and you have a retail Windows key only and the normal recovery methods fail on an OEM system, your fully paid retail version of Windows will not work when trying to repair an OEM system unless you disable Secure Boot. The good news is that in many cases this won't be necessary or desirable. The OEM factory recovery methods will work most of the time. We're going to take another break here. This is your host, Corey K, and you've been listening to High Tech with Corey K. Feel free to email me at coreyk@pctechfl.com. Visit our forums at xzonetechzone.com or send me a Skype message at hightech with CK. If you ask your questions today during this pre-recorded broadcast, we will make sure to address those questions in a future installment of High Tech with Corey K. We'll be back in a minute, X-Zone Nation. In the next and final segment, we'll cover some features for power users you might find interesting. We're going to cover some of the latest high-tech news, including quantum computing, and we'll be back. Thank you for listening. See you on the other side of this break. Before we break, I actually haven't told you about the ways that you can use Pokemon Go to attract new customers to your business. If you have the Pokemon Go app for Android or iPhone, click on the Pokemon Go logo in the middle of the screen. It looks like a red and white ball that we are quickly becoming familiar with. Click on the settings icon, which looks like a little gear. Go to shop, and then you can buy lure modules with Pokecoins that you have purchased. Businesses around the world have seen an increase in their foot traffic due to the new Pokemon Go app. They have done this mostly passively, but a few enterprising business owners have used Pokemon Go or Pokemon Go lures to attract new business. Lures attract Pokemon Go users to your location. It is a great idea for businesses, but it is an absolutely dangerous idea for home users. Do not use your home as a Pokemon Go lure unless you want to be faced with the prospect of crazed gamers coming to your home, and more ominous yet, predators and criminals can also come to your home if you set it as a lure, so just don't do it. Some local businesses have also openly advertised on outdoor signs that their location is a Pokestop. This is a nice added bonus. You're giving it a 1-2 punch. There is a Japanese restaurant that I had passed by for years without notice until they included a sign outside their business saying that they were a Pokemon Go stop. I captured new Pokemon, and the business gained a new sushi customer. Now we're really going to break. You have been listening to High Tech with Corey K. Email me at coreyk@pctechfl.com. That's FL is in Florida. Visit us at the forums at xzonetechzone.com. You can ask any and all technical questions there, and those will be answered not just privately, but we will try to answer those questions during next week's High Tech with Corey K broadcast. You can also Skype me at High Tech with CK. That's HITECH with CK. We'll work on that name at some point in the future. We'll really be back in a minute, X-Zone Nation. Stay tuned. For those of you who are listening who are without computer but still want networking capability, consider IP over avian carrier. Look it up on Google or Wikipedia. That's IP over avian carrier. We have pigeons that can deliver your messages for you wirelessly over the air. it's pretty cool. We're going to see you on the other side of the break. Stay tuned, X-Zone Nation, to High Tech with Corey K. Thank you for listening.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
If you enjoy reading a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love From Out of the Woodwork by William S. Peckham. Sean Kennedy, a Toronto contractor, buys derelict houses, guts them, and turns them into multi-family dwellings. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, a century house in ruins, and starts the renovation, the house fights back. He is visited by ghosts of owners past. His visions are triggered by touching an oak mantle, reading a faded letter, opening an old locket, or opening a brand new casket in the basement. These visions will take you on a trip across southern Ontario from Niagara Falls to Toronto to Kingston. From Out of the Woodwork is now available in paperback and on your favorite electronic reader. To order your copy of From Out of the Woodwork, go to www.williamspeckham.com. That's www.williamspeckham.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey K, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Welcome back to High Tech with Corey K. Email your questions to CoreyK@PCTechFL.com or send me a Skype message at HiTech with CK. That's HITECH with CK. Or you can join the tech support forums at www.xzonetechzone.com. During this show, we have covered disk drives, recovery disks, and of course a little bit about Pokemon Go. Some of our power users who have been on the fence about whether to upgrade from a traditional platter drive to an NVMe or other PCIe solid-state drive may be encouraged to make that plunge. The common wisdom until recently is that you cannot take 2 or more NVMe SSDs and make them part of a RAID array for speed or redundancy, and also make those drives bootable. The newer Skylake processors from Intel, for all their faults, have made this both problematic and possible at the same time. Just as a reminder for all of our listeners out there, a RAID array, or redundant array of independent disks, can make 2 or more hard drives either faster if you use what is known as a RAID 0 array, or make the drives redundant if you use a RAID 1 or higher array. You can now configure SSDs to become part of a RAID array, but you may encounter problems. There are 2 types of RAID roughly: hardware RAID, which requires a specialized device known as a hardware RAID controller, PERT controller, few other names, and software RAID. Many softwares are capable of creating a RAID array, but a very popular choice is the Intel Rapid Storage Technology Manager. You do not have to use either of these on a Windows computer, as Microsoft has made an equivalent in the Storage Spaces app or utility. If you do go for the Intel Rapid Storage Technology Manager, however, you must first make sure you upgrade to the latest version of IRST from Intel's website, or preferably to your computer manufacturer's website. Additionally, you may need to make some creative edits to your BIOS. The sheer number of hardware devices out there make it impossible to say for sure which changes will make your bootable RAID array achievable. Some ASUS users have reported that they need to make sure that RAID is enabled in their BIOS before setting up their array in the IRST utility. The IRS utility, by the way, is typically accessed by restarting your computer and pressing Control-I before Windows loads. Some Dell users have almost counterintuitively reported that they had to enable legacy mode in their BIOS to make it work, although this is best if Windows 7 is used and not so much if Windows 8 or higher is used, and it's definitely not the only solution. Additionally, you may need to upgrade the firmware for your SSD. This is especially important if you're using disk encryption or have an SED or self-encrypting drive. If you use McAfee encryption, there are several McAfee knowledge base articles on the subject. You may encounter a few configuration problems. You can get around most of these, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them at CoreyK@PCTechFL.com. No question is too great or too small. In tech news this week, Seagate has announced the availability of a 60 terabyte SSD drive. Only a year ago, they had produced a 15 terabyte SSD drive. A new vulnerability has been discovered in Linux that allows hackers to gain remote access to systems. What else is new? Windows 10 now includes a Linux emulator and Android notifications, which is a big break from the past since both Linux and Google have been seen as competitors. I almost saw the writing on the wall when I heard that. Linus Torvalds himself, the founder of Linux as we know it, actually joined the Microsoft team, so we knew that some sort of partnership was emerging. We just didn't know what the outcome would be, but here it is. Google's offering 1 gigabit speed internet to more and more states, so that is pretty exciting. Hackers have posted the email addresses of many congressional House Democrats. We'll see how that all plays out. Snapchat has been found to be racist, just like Twitter. Sort of the cutting edge in technological sociology lately has been exploring racist algorithms. So we'll kind of see in the near future what fruit that will bear. It'll be interesting to watch. The Samsung Note 7 has become available where all major smartphones are sold. Microsoft and Intel have been steadily backpedaling on the less featured Skylake processors, and by that I mean that the Skylake processors were the first to not include backwards compatibility with many versions of Windows, and there was a timetable for how long Skylake processors would support Windows 7. Now that they have realized that the installed base of Windows 7 is just as ubiquitous as previous Windows XP installs, more or less, they've kind of backpedaled a little bit. The support for Windows 7 on these processors has been extended to 2020 in many cases, so that will alleviate many consumer concerns about the new processors. If you go to the Intel website, you'll notice they even referred to Skylake processors as products formerly known as Skylake, so that just lets you know how much Intel is trying to distance themselves from their products. That product, it's almost the Windows Vista or Windows 8 of Intel processors. They've already started to announce much more earlier than usual their newest line of processors, so it's kind of interesting to see that play out. Pokemon Go has been banned from the Pentagon. They're probably not going to be the last of government or business establishments to ban Pokemon Go. User productivity is affected, security can be affected, but until they outright ban it, that's not really going to stop me. T-Mobile has dropped their previous flagship HTC after just a few months after the number of user complaints has risen. The Democratic National Committee was informed about this massive attack that we recently learned about much earlier than reported, which is pretty interesting. In recent weeks, the DNC postured a bit, and they were, at least in the media, they were angry at the FBI for not reporting the hack earlier, but as it turns out, they knew much earlier than we thought they did, so it all seems like a lot of hullabaloo right now. That should just about wrap up this week's installment of High Tech with Corey K. Next week, we will cover the differences between processors. Many computers advertise an i3, i5, or i7 processor, but not all processors are created equal. Just so you know, a processor is also the CPU or central processing unit of the computer. It performs many of the calculations. It is the actual heart of your computer, and we're just going to cover the differences between many processors because not all i7s are made alike. We're going to cover the world of torrenting. Many major public torrent sites have been taken down in recent weeks, much to the surprise of many, and we will discuss the impact that this is having. We will discuss various media players out there like Roku, Apple TV, and Kodi, and we will cover tech news as always. Email your questions to CoreyK@PCTechFL.com. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid that you're asking a stupid question, because there are no stupid questions. Send me a Skype message at HiTech with CK. That's HITECH with C as in Charlie, K as in Kilo. Or you can join the lively tech support forums at www.xzonetechzone.com. Until next time, tech hard. Have a safe weekend. Don't run out into traffic playing Pokemon Go. Don't run off of cliffs. And we will see you next time. One more thing before we go. When people get in front of computers, they are often intimidated. They just assume that they're too complex to be understood. Well, once upon a time, I had a very hard time just hooking up a VCR right, and slowly but surely and gradually over a number of years, little by little, I just picked up more and more and more, and so can you. If you see neat things being done on TV, or you hear about family or friends that are doing something amazing online and you just can't figure out how to do it, never give up. Feel free to ask us for help here. That's what we're here for. CoreyK@PCTechFL.com. Thank you for listening to High Tech with Corey K, and we will see you next week. Thanks, X Zone Nation.